When I explain the concept of operational freedom to construction company owners, they almost all say, I want that. The problem is, too often, you might feel that you can never have it because you always have last minute stuff you're taking care of. For the past couple of years, I've been talking about rules I have to make your life easier. And this video has a new rule. This one is called the 48-hour rule for you. In past videos, I talked about why you need a 48-hour rule for your staff. Let's turn the tables and look at why you need one for yourself. But before we do that, first, let's define operational freedom. So operational freedom means that you're not involved in the day-to-day operations of your company at all. Instead, you have the time to work on your business and be strategic. You've learned how to delegate effectively and have developed a team that can work independently of you. No longer do you direct work. Instead, you've learned to work through others. It's a way better way to run your company, and it's the only way you can really grow your company. I know you want to be effective in how you spend your time because that's the first step we need to take. But if you're doing things at the last minute, there is no way you can be effective. You're already late and behind the eight ball. When everything is urgent and important, everything just gets thrown out the window and you just go from one emergency to another emergency to another emergency. Let's face it, it's hard and it takes a toll when you always try to do things at the last minute. This is a major cause of burnout. If you do this for years, you'll eventually get to the point where you'll ask yourself, why bother? There is no way you can be multitask and be efficient. So multitasking is a myth. When you keep going from one thing to another, you just can't be doing things efficiently, and in most cases, not even effectively. This is especially true when you're multitasking and you're close to a deadline. Instead, you really need to learn about the concept of deep work. This is where you get rid of all distractions and focus on what's ahead of you, one thing at a time. This is easy when you give yourself extra time to get projects and tasks done. When you don't, it's almost impossible to work without stress. I know that when I give myself extra time, I never feel stressed. My problem is that I know it will take some time when I wait till the last minute before I do some work. And that's where I get really stressed. So I have a question for you. Do you feel you're overwhelmed? If you answered yes to this question, I know you're trying to get too many things done at the last minute. And I have two words from you. Stop it. I hate the word overwhelmed because too often it means the person is not effectively using their time or doing activities others should be doing. Knowing what you do to add the most value to your company is essential. Every time you find yourself doing something else, stop and ask yourself, who could do this instead of you? So there's a really simple fix to this issue. In the past, I've talked about the 48-hour rule for your team. I want you to use the same rule for yourself. When you have a project or a task that needs to be done, make sure you get it done 48 hours before it needs to be completed. This will require advanced planning on your part. Have a system where you can look at what you need to do. Then when you plan your week, make sure you give yourself enough time to complete those tasks 48 hours before the due. That allows you to have some time slippage that's going to happen from time to time. And there will also be times when you need that 48-hour buffer because something has become a real emergency. And you want to track this every time it happens to see what you can do to make sure it doesn't happen again. The more you get these emergencies, the more you need to understand how much work you can get done at a time. This is where a concept called time blocking becomes important. When you start to use a 48-hour rule for yourself, you'll find that you have very few times your activities are done on time. It's just the way it is. If you're like every other owner I know, you think you can do more in a day that you can actually do. And this is one of the main reasons you're always rushing to get everything done. It would help if you had some reality about how long things actually take. So what I'm about to suggest is something you will truly hate. Everybody does. And at the same time, it's the only way to get you to know how long things actually take. So for the next 2 weeks, I want you to write down everything you do on a calendar broken into 15-minute segments. I want you to highlight those activities that you've been interrupted while doing with a highlighter. And I also want you to highlight activities that you've done where you tried to multitask. At the end of 2 weeks, you'll get a good idea of how long it takes for you to do activities in your life. And you'll know how much you can schedule. This will force you to either delegate the activities you don't have time for or just let them go because they're not all that important. So when you do this, you'll find that you have time to breathe and be more effective with your actions at work. You might even learn to love your business, the work you do again. So these 3 steps will help you with your journey. Yeah, we're at the time in the video where I'm going to give you 3 things you can do to make your life easier. So here they are. Start with learning about time blocking and use it for the next 2 weeks. After you do that, number 2, learn how long your activities will take. All you got to do is look at your calendar and you'll say, gee, that thing, it took me 2 hours. I used to think it would only take me 30 minutes. Then finally, plan to finish all the activities you assign yourself with a buffer of 48 hours before they're due. Now, this is pretty simple stuff, but now it's time for you to get out there and do it. So here's what I think I would like to have you do right now. I would love to talk with you about how you can incorporate your own 48-hour rule into what you do. If you're interested, contact me at jpatrick@stage2planning.com, and we'll have a free 20-minute conversation, and you'll be on your way towards operational freedom. There's also a tool I use to keep me on track with the major objectives I have. It's called OKRs. This stands for Objectives and Key Results. I put together a 1-page infographic that explains how they work. So just click on the button at the bottom of this page and you'll have it on your way to you. So when you do this, you're going to stop feeling like you're always up against the wall, and instead you'll be getting your work done with lots of extra time. But while you're at it and at the end of this video, please scroll down and let me know what you think about using the 48-hour rule in your life. Hey, this is Josh Patrick. You're at The Sustainable Business. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.